craziness, John. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
Injuries we get news last night, injuries this morning, injuries galore. The slate is crazy.
Yeah.
When you messaged the chat, you said sorry the playbook is a little delayed because I'm writing up 50 people. I had to cut it down. You're
Yeah.
right. Like you had to at least give thought to that many players tonight, especially considering how deep in the player pool has been because of the injuries. Well, with all that said, what's up, man? How are you feeling about tonight's 9-game slate? I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to be a wild one, that's for sure.
It's crazy. I mean, as we said, I kind of like had a feeling that maybe Giannis wouldn't play tonight. Like I was reading around some things, and it was Cleveland. Like they don't need Giannis to be Cleveland. They sat him out. But we just got that news now, which means Bledsoe and Middleton are who are in the playbook as it was. They're just now like more players you need to consider already. I had over 50 guys initially in the playbook today, and I'm sitting here. I'm like, I can't literally write up everybody. We need to narrow it down, or else like, what's the real point of the playbook if I say to play everybody? But you can really play everybody. There's so much value tonight. There are so many top players and great matchups. So yeah, I mean, I really gave some analysis on. I think it ended up being like 38 players, and I listed in the guys I initially took out of the playbook just as at the top and how I would like to use them in tonight's slate. Whether cash or GPP, kind of give you an idea. But it's a great slate. A lot of good matchups tonight that we've got to take advantage of.
Yeah, so let's just not waste any more time. Let's jump into the injuries. Let's jump into the Vegas total. I'm just going to quickly run down this list of injuries, and you guys could take a nap because it's going to be a long one. Giannis is out. Joel Embiid expected to play. Kevin Love, Larry Nance, Tristan Thompson all playing tonight.
Yeah.
One of those players in John's playbook we can cross out, Marquise Chris, especially with the depth. Tristan Thompson will be limited, though. At least that's what they say.
They're all going to be limited. That's the problem. They're all going to play 15 minutes.
Right. I mean, hey, at least there's some positivity coming out of Cleveland right now. Otto Porter's ruled out. Zach LaVine probable. Nikola Mirotic broke his thumb. He is out for an extended period of time. Ersan randomly ruled out last night, going to play. Maxi Kleber is out. Eric Gordon is out. Kenneth Faried is questionable. Anthony Davis was ruled out. Kyle Lowry ruled out. Avery Bradley is going to miss about a week. He is out. Noah Vonleh is out. Derek Favors is probable. Justice Winslow is missing another game. Gordon Hayward is missing another game. And Alonzo Trier just ruled out before we got on air. So, pretty much every name that was just read off is notable. We're not getting, Amir Johnsons of the world ruled out. We're getting, the top-tier players ruled out. When we move over to Vegas, it's a lot of big totals. Currently the highest on the board is Washington, Chicago at 231.5. That spread is only 2.5, so that's pretty interesting. I mean, one of the best probably per dollar spends is in that slate. Mr. Automatic himself is on that. Your Celtics is in a pretty high scoring total against a Philly team in the second night of a back-to-back with playoff implications in this one.
Big time.
Yep. 224 total. Philly's actually favored by 3 at home with Embiid back. And then Cleveland, Milwaukee took a 3-point plunge since the Giannis news. 228.5. It was 10. It is now 225.5, and it's now 7-point favorites in favor of Milwaukee. And last night we saw, for a large part of the game, the Lakers kept it close. Not the entire game, but for most of the game, they kept it close. So hopefully Cleveland, who's probably actually in a better spot than the Lakers are, honestly, can keep it close. But, John, before we jump into the slate, again, you have some words, you have some knowledge to pass on to the people that haven't been listening to us the last couple weeks.
Well, like I've said, it's March Madness week, so it's freaking madness over here at Fantasy Alarm. Do you want to pay once and win forever? Right now, we have a limited number of lifetime Fantasy Alarm memberships. Pays for itself in less than a year, plus you get exclusive contests and benefits only to the select group of you that purchase this lifetime membership. With MLB, you get the Jim Button Draft Guide, the ultimate cheat sheet, plus 5,000 features, 35 plus seasonal DFS tools, plus live chat every day. We also cover 11 other sports, including the NBA, so don't miss out. Go to fantasyalarm.com/forever. Use promo code MADNESS to get an extra 25% off. It's currently at $297. Get an extra 25% off that using promo code MADNESS to become a Fantasy Alarm member for life. Today, we actually had a lot of people in chat that were saying it was pretty much their they just bought the subscription. They're new to the site. They're trying to get a feel for how we do everything around here.
Right.
And we're looking to make winners out of them tonight. I had a lot of good conversations today about the process and how we go about with our DFS NBA content. Baseball started last night, or this morning, I guess, 5:30 in the morning.
Right.
So, I mean, everything's already happening quick, so pick it up now. But, James, we got 9 games to get to, so let's get it rolling.
Yeah, let's just jump right into point guards since you wrote 37 of them up today. Yes, you're right. You did. There's 37 players at each position today that you can honestly play. But up at the top of the point guard position, we have Russell Westbrook. Per usual, we have Damian Lillard with no CJ McCollum. We have Kyrie Irving in the playoff implication game, and we know we love using Kyrie in big spots. And then Elfrid Payton, like we said the other day, we're putting him in this elite tier because
you have to.
You have to. How are you breaking down these top 4 guys? Who's cash viable? Who's GPP viable? Who's someone that you're locking in both formats?
So I'm off Westbrook, and it's weird to say like you're off a guy who can give you a triple-double at any point, and it's a good matchup for him. Again, Fred VanVleet defense, guys, very undersized. Westbrook should really not have any problem with him. It's just that the cost that you have to pay up for Westbrook when there are other guys who are giving you 60-plus fantasy points almost on a nightly basis at this point, with a Dame Lillard, with no CJ McCollum. I was worried about that matchup against the Pacers. He went off for 60. We have Elfrid Payton, 5 straight triple-doubles. If people in our chat are cringing at paying $9,500 or $8,000 for Elfrid Payton.
You shouldn't cringe.
If you hide his name and look at his numbers, you would think you're paying for like a Westbrook or a Rondo or something like that, and you would have no problem doing it. But now you have Payton in a revenge game. Orlando traded him last year to Phoenix. So like there's a revenge narrative to go into play with Payton. And then Kyrie Irving, and again, he's another guy, 2 60-point games out of his last 3. He went for 50-plus against Denver. I think it's kind of interesting that the Sixers are favorites because they haven't beaten the Celtics since, the process era began. So I think Irving's going to be super motivated here to take it to them. And, Philadelphia, they have decent numbers DVP-wise against point guards. Irving just plays at a different level, and I don't think he wants to lose to Philadelphia tonight. So I think all of them are playing. Again, I'm not playing Westbrook because of the price, but if he's in your lineup, that's fine. I'm not going to blink at it. And I think you can use them all in all formats. There's not really one that I think is like, he's a GPP-only guy. He's a cash game guy. I honestly think you can put them all in either formats and be pretty safe tonight.
I mean, I'm with you on the Westbrook thing. Why pay up Russ at 10-3 when you can get Elfrid Payton doing the same thing for $8,000?
Yeah.
Five straight triple doubles.
$800 Dame Lillard can give you 60 on this slate. So, no, I agree. It just there are nights where it doesn't make sense to pay up for guys because of the depth of the position. And they got even deeper. With that Giannis news, Eric Bledsoe now very much back in play. He went for 40 fantasy points just last night against the Lakers. And now he gets an even better matchup against Colin Sexton defense for 38 minutes, however long he's going to be on the floor for. So Bledsoe's just in a really good spot, I think, as well. And he's a good mid-tier price. Guys that I wrote up but didn't include, I like Mike Conley tonight. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to have to play a bunch of minutes. So they don't have the depth in that front backcourt tonight, knowing that like Dalen Wright's probably going to have to play on the floor with him a lot of the night. I still like Sexton because he's going to play 40 minutes. Satoransky in that Bulls matchup, a really good spot there. So the mid-tier stacked and like even value tier, there's so many guys to play tonight at point guard. Your boy DJ Augustine gets the Elfrid Payton defense effect. Goran Dragic broke the slate the other night, went for 50. They didn't really price him up too much either. VanVleet, who was not even in my lineup tonight, but I mean, he's another guy that it just balls out when he's in the starting lineup. Good spot for him again tonight. Like point guard is just so loaded. You can build your lineups up and down the slate. I think that bodes well for ownership standards. I think you're going to see a lot of ownership in that, like, separated amongst all these players. So you're not going to have like one, I don't think, definite chalk play. Maybe Bledsoe gets a bump now with the Giannis news, but I think you're going to see a lot of ownership spread around the slate tonight.
Yeah, especially considering, we were talking about yesterday, people love to spend up on position. So with so many guys up at the top tier that you can spend up on in great spots, like you said, the ownership's just going to be spread out throughout. Let's jump over to shooting guard where we have James Harden at the top, but I don't necessarily think he's going to be your favorite shooting guard on today's slate, is he?
He's not. I mean, the cover of the playbook was Bradley Beal. He did have like a bad game the other night, and those things have to happen. He can't literally go for 60 and I mean, he was, but eventually it was going to catch up to him a little bit. So now he gets a nice bounce back spot here against Chicago. He's averaging over 50 fantasy points in 2 games against the Bulls this season. For me, I'm expecting him to jump right back into it, give us another 50-plus fantasy points. And again, what I love about this is, again, it's a close spread. It's high scoring, potential for overtime. I was so close to calling out the overtime game yesterday in Charlotte. That would have been crazy. One of these days it's going to happen. If you get Beal in an overtime game, if you game stack Chicago-Washington, which I think is going to be super popular tonight, there can be a boatload of fantasy points scored. And there's a reason why he's 50% projected ownership over on FanDuel and like 38% on DraftKings. I mean, he's just playing out of his mind right now. It just makes a lot of sense to sort of pivot down off Harden.
Completely agree. I mean, we've kind of been doing that for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it's been profitable for us because realistically, he's putting in the same fantasy production for significantly cheaper. Moving down the list, we have Luka Doncic, who is 1 assist shy 2 games ago of having back-to-back triple-doubles. We have Zach LaVine in a great spot. On the flip side of that Bradley Beal game, we have Chris Middleton, who basically was a mini Giannis last night, I want to say. Without Giannis tonight, how are you breaking those 3 guys down at the next tier?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just crazy the amount of sort of like value and whatnot that's opening up, and the way now you have to reshift maybe some of your focus. Doncic is a guy that just like whenever I put him in my lineups, I don't get him right. I've played him like 3 times. He's all had like his worst games of the season. But he's another one that's pretty much giving us 50 plus on any given night because of his triple double upside, and you're getting a discount from him down from Beal. So like you're saving even more money off Harden from a guy that can give you a triple double in Luka, and a good spot here against Portland though, which is really just throwing Lillard out there against everybody. So I like Luka a ton, all formats. LaVine's a GPP play for me. The fantasy points haven't really been there against Washington this year, but the shooting percentages have been. So I kind of like wanted to focus on that because I think it shows that there's potential upside where instead of you just look at like the raw total numbers, he's shooting 63% from the field and 42% from 3 in the 2 games against Washington this year. No Otto Porter tonight. More shots go his way. It just shows that there's a higher ceiling for him than we've seen. So I really wanted to focus on that in this matchup. Good spot for him. Everybody, I think, is going to go back to Middleton. It just makes a lot of sense. I think that, again, you saw what he did last night. He gets a matchup against Cleveland, which I think could be a little bit tougher. Like, they could start David Nwamba tonight or something like that and put him on and Middleton. And technically, Nwamba's like sort of their like defensive player. Like for whatever reason, they started Nwamba when they faced like the Lakers because they thought he was going to like shut down LeBron. I don't know. But so, I mean, like Nwamba could be the defensive guy on Middleton and worry him a little bit, but ownership's going to be there. Donovan Mitchell gets the Knicks. I mean, we're not. I didn't put him in the playbook. He was initially, but everything else there's just too many guys in that tier.
Right.
But we're talking about in Madison Square Garden, where we talk about all the time that star players like to go into New York, like to go into Madison Square Garden and put up huge games.
He's from New York, by the way.
Is he?
He's from Westchester County, New York.
Yeah.
Where that's where your boy's from. So
that's where you're from, right? So I mean, like I said, there's like a whole bunch of narratives there. Again, Mitchell, not a guy I ever get right. Rubio's active and playing, so he hasn't had as good of a ceiling. But these type of games, these type of matchups, he can definitely go in there and just tear apart the Knicks. No worries whatsoever. And then again, we go down in like more to the mid-tier value, like no Trier. So Dotson was already in the playbook. Well, now he's even more in the play. Like he's even more of a focal point. He's already playing a bunch of minutes. He lost minutes to Trier the other day in a blowout. Well, Trier's not there anymore. So, like, who's taking minutes from Damian Dotson tonight? Is there anybody?
This is the exact time that I was hoping. Like, this is so now Kadeem Allen was just also ruled out. So now the Knicks, they have
DSJ Dotson playing.
DSJ is out. Okay. Dotson is. It's going to be Dotson and Moutier are really their only 2 viable guards. So does that, I mean, you already have Dotson written down. Does that put you on Moutier anymore, considering there's no DSJ and there's no Kadeem Allen?
And like super contrarian, like game stacks, I guess, like there's just too many players. Like, and the sad part is like Moutier has shown upside before to like go for 40. Right. And like so I don't know. I mean, I like that there's no one behind them because it means in a blowout they're all safe, so that bodes well for them. So we talked about Dylan Wright. He's a point guard, shooting guard. I think he's a shooting guard on FanDuel only. There's no CJ Miles, no Avery Bradley. He's already playing backup point guard in a bunch of minutes as it is. he's gonna play, I think, 30+ minutes tonight. I think he's a lock for that. And he's been strong. Like you talk about all the time. He was sort of like the key piece of that trade going to Memphis when they traded Gasol getting back. Love him. Connaughton played over 30 minutes last night. Have to assume he's going to be back in that role again tonight. Do you disagree?
No, I mean, it makes sense for him to be even more in the rotation with Mirotic out, because Ersan can't play nearly as many minutes as Mirotic played last night.
Yeah, I agree 100%. There's no Gordon Hayward, so I mean, Jaylen Brown, it didn't work out against Denver, but I mean, I don't mind going back to the well here, off the bench against Philadelphia. David Nwamba, super cheap guy. If he starts again tonight, the minutes could be there for him. He's another cheap value play that you could possibly look at. I mean, again, there's so much value on this slate. It's so crazy. How these roster builds can happen tonight. I don't think there's going to be like one, lineup. I don't think there's gonna be a lot of repeat lineups. I guess I'll say. Like I'm not right about that. No.
Two quick questions since we're at the shooting guard position. One by HRich00. Pat Connaughton or DeLon Wright?
I would go Wright.
I agree. And then the second question from Dad Star: David Nwaba or Rodney Hood tonight?
I would go Rodney Hood.
Okay. Let's move over to small forward, where you did have Giannis, but obviously we can cross him off the player pool, which is nice. Cutting down the player pool one by one.
I wrote in the playbook. I honestly think he sits tonight. Right. So
and he's still
chalk that up.
And he's still garnering 35% projection on FanDuel.
I assume we'll get that update coming shortly.
No, I of course, but just prior to him being officially ruled out, that's how much people wanted to play him against Cleveland. They wanted to play him so bad. Top small forward obviously pivots to Kawhi Leonard. Kyle Lowry tonight. Well, there's no Kyle Lowry. It's a very weak position.
He's how much? $400 on DraftKings.
And we've talked about it in the past. Under 9, anything under 9K is close to automatic for Kawhi, right? And now it's closer to 8K than it is to 9K.
I understand maybe the matchup isn't going to be the greatest because Paul George defense and they're going to go back and forth with one another. But I mean, he has a great usage rate with Lowry off the floor, averaging 1.4 fantasy points per minute, I think it is. And he's finally shown that ceiling that we sort of criticized him a little bit and why he's been priced down as he's been. 56 fantasy points against Detroit and 45 against the Lakers. If he's only $8,400, then you need 42 fantasy points to hit that 5X mark. Right. We know he's definitely capable of that. And then again, you talk about sort of the matchup here, against the Thunder, and it's a 4.5 point spread with a 227 total. Close game, high scoring. It all just sort of fits the books to pay up for Kawhi on DraftKings. FanDuel, again, it's a limited position, so you can pay the 95 if you want. I kind of like some of the mid-tier players a little bit better, but still, we know the upside's there on this type of slate.
I mean, how much? So, just talking about FanDuel, it's something that we've kind of talked about ad nauseum lately about position scarcity. How much of that 35% ownership from Giannis do you think shifts to Kawhi? Just given how, just bad the position really is, and how the lack of top tier plays there are other than Kawhi and Paul George, really.
Yeah, I think you'll see at least a little bit of it go down to Kawhi, I think, for sure. But I think that ownership gets more probably dispersed towards Middleton and Bledsoe. Okay. I think a lot of people there are oh, well, now the obvious plays are X and Y, and they go there and they, now they have, think about all the money they're saving now going off of right. Giannis. You can essentially go down to a Harden or a Lillard or, something like that and save $1,000 and then use that somewhere else. So, again, it's all about, how your roster builds go. But like I said, I do like other guys here at small forward position, more towards that mid-tier. I've been playing Jabari Parker, I think, by myself for the past week, it seems like. Nobody's caught on that he's playing 30 minutes. He's playing over 6X every single night. And they've started using him in sort of a small ball center role. If you look at Bobby Portis minutes, they're not really there. And Thomas Bryant isn't seeing minutes either. It's been Jabari Parker, first sub off the bench, and a small ball center. I don't know if they'll get away with that tonight. If Robin Lopez is out there, he'll probably have his way with him if they try to go small. But I like Parker a lot. And again, we have low ownership on him tonight. Game stacking, Washington, Chicago, I think is smart. What are your thoughts on Seti? Obviously, I was a lot higher on him when I thought everybody was going to be ruled out. They are all active now, though, and though they may be limited, what do you think that he takes any sort of a bump down in minutes? I mean, he's playing 36 minutes a night, but does Love, Thompson, Nance, all those guys being active take you off him a little bit now?
I mean, it's definitely feasible to think that way, but we've mentioned in the past where Seti's been better with Love on the floor, and it's probably because the ability for like the attention that Love brings. He's the only person on that offense that garners attention. So maybe Love in the post kicks to Seti, it benefits him. Plus, being limited, maybe he's the one still playing the backup power forward minutes. Considering Milwaukee generally plays smaller, their forwards like Ersan's a 6'9" power forward, so maybe
I guess I worry about maybe him losing some rebounding upside, right?
That is the peripheral stats are definitely a concern. That's no doubt. But maybe where we lose peripherally, we gain offensively because Tristan Thompson is less of an offensive talent than Ante Zizic is, and so maybe where we lose something, we gain in other spots because Osman's been good scoring the basketball lately. That's really where he's shined kind of because he's always been good peripherally. He's just been scoring better. So I don't think he's we've talked him up for quite a while now. Like the last couple of weeks, we've been all over him. Do I think he's that great of a play? No, but I think he's in the player pool. Like I think he deserves to be brought up with the small forwards, considering it's kind of a weak position.
Yeah, right starting now. So that's
I mean, it's like we expected it. Yeah, I mean,
gotta lock him into your lineups now. Other small forwards I have written at the top. I like Rudy Gay. As long as you're okay with he's gonna play 25-ish or so minutes, I think there's still some upside there for cash gains plays. For GPPs, I got Mo Harkless, I got Finney Smith with no Maxi Kleber. I think there's potential for some more minutes there for him. Other guys that I have in the playbook, we have Jay Crowder, who I think is always a GPP play. And then the value, Chandler Parsons played 22 minutes the other night with CJ Miles hurt, no Avery Bradley. And we talk about it a lot when we sort of in jest talk about playing Chandler Parsons on the podcast every once in a while. We say, hey, he used to be an elite player when he was healthy. This is the most minutes we've seen him play in a while, and he was damn good. I think there's a role for him tonight, knowing the depth that's there. If they were willing to play him 22 minutes the other night, I'm hoping they're willing to play him 20 to 25 minutes again tonight. Only $3,300 on over on DraftKings. I think there's a GPP dart throw in there, and then I don't know what the sites are doing here. Maybe they're not paying attention to Houston. Right. But what exactly does Daniel House have to do, to get priced up? Fortunately for us, they're not touching him. He's $3,900 on both sides. All the guy's done since coming back in from the G League is play almost 30 minutes a night, give us 25 plus fantasy points a night. Again, lock and load. No Eric Gordon again tonight in the line. No Eric Gordon, again in their lineup. So all in on House here for me for sure.
Yeah, and this is a guy we've seen start multiple games this year. Since we're at the small forward position, and I know you just saw the news that came down, Shaq Harrison officially starting, and I know you also saw the ownership that we have projected on Shaq Harrison. And I say this because he's currently the third highest projected owned player on FanDuel and the highest projected owned player on DK. Now, granted, this was prior to the honest news. The update is still coming, so things could change. But he's been decent, and at least in terms of FanDuel production, I mean, there's been a steal in 4 straight games, 4 steals, which obviously
that really drove his fantasy production the other day. I had a conversation briefly in chat. Someone asked me about him. I told him I felt like there's too much other value, more reliable value on the slate to really go to him. I saw the ownership. I did a little bit of a deeper look. I think he's fine for cash games, just given the amount of ownership. Now, if this update comes through and Shaq Harrison's cut in half, then we don't need to really go there as much. I'm really just playing because we have him at 50% ownership. Right. The 30 minutes was nice, but you never know with that rotation. All of a sudden, he could start getting killed by, Parker or Green or whoever else they throw out there, over in Washington. And, now they go to Wayne Selden more. They go to Archie Dakino for bigger bodies. It all really depends on what they're doing here. We're looking at it. He's fine. Again, if he fits your builds. I like him in game stacks. Another, just throw him out here, mid-price dark guy that I kind of like if you're stacking this game, is Troy Brown Jr. for Washington. He's a min-price play. And he gets on the floor and he plays around 20 minutes a night and he just takes shots. So again, if you're really looking to be contrarian tonight, he's just you're making 150 lineups, you're making whatever, you throw him in there, you game stack and trying to get value. He's, I think, a guy we really need to pay attention to as the season gets later on when people sit and all stuff.
Right.
I've kind of had an eye on him for a little bit. Haven't pulled the trigger on playing him, but some of the peripheral stats look nice. But that probably wraps up small forward for me.
All right, let's move on to power forward where we have Julius Randle and the rest of the position.
Yeah, Julius Randle, check Gallo, right? Gallo.
And then the rest, and then everyone else. Because, I mean, 75 fantasy points the last time Anthony Davis sat for Julius Randle.
I had, just finished, editing the playbook when that news sort of, broke out. And I was like, all right, well, now I can go throw Randle in down and add 2 more players to it. So, he's not going to – all right, I won't say he's not going to go for 75, but he went for 75 the other day. That Anthony Davis news broke late. It actually broke while we were on the live stream. So the ownership wasn't as high on him as we may have expected it. I'm surprised to see the ownership sitting only around 8% as it is now. Now, I understand that against centers and power forwards, the Magic actually had decent defensive numbers against them. They're a long team. Aaron Gordon's athletic. Vucevic can grab a lot of rebounds. But Randle put up 30 fantasy points in 21 minutes in their first meeting. Without Holiday and Davis on the floor, he's averaging 1.4 fantasy points per minute as it is. If we're going to get a sub 10% Julius Randle tonight, sign me up. I'll be all over that. But he's already in all the lines for me anyways. I think 50 fantasy points is probably where we should set our realistic expectations. But it's always good to know that he's got an 80-pointer sitting in his back pocket on the days where it works out. So I do like Randle. Flip side, I like Aaron Gordon. Someone that I never get correct, but you play him, and he usually works out seemingly for you. Playing out really well right now, 36 fantasy points over his last 4 games, his average. Went for 35 against the Pels the first time. So, that works. He's gone for 39 in back-to-back games. So, again, he's an athletic guy, can crash the boards and score, kind of fill out the stat sheet for you. The Celtics Sixers game, I think, could go a little bit overlooked tonight, at least in my opinion, looking over some of the ownership numbers as well. Tatum's averaging over 40 fantasy points against them this year. Now, one of them was an overtime game. One of them, Kyrie didn't play. And then the first game of the year, Kyrie sucked. But it just seems like maybe Tatum's just a matchup problem. He's had 2 double-doubles against them, 20 and 10 in the last 2 games. And he had 20 and 9 in the first game. So, maybe Tatum just gets up for these big games against Philadelphia, kind of shows out against them. He had a lot of success in the playoffs. He's not a guy that I've played a lot this year because there's just been too many mouths to feed in Boston, and he hasn't always come through, but this is a spot for GBPs. I think we can definitely look at Tatum. Derek Favors, he left last game with a hamstring injury. I believe he's going to play tonight, right? We haven't seen that.
Probable. He's currently probable. So
yeah. So assuming he starts, we love attacking the Knicks at the power forward position. Mario Hezonja has been starting at power forward for them. Favors, I don't think he's going to have any problem whatsoever if he can stay on the floor. So I like him at his point. You and I discussed Bam right before we jumped on air. He's a power forward on FanDuel, even though he's been their center for all season. He's a power forward center on DraftKings. I think he's really safe in cash games, playing almost 30 minutes a night. The fantasy production's been there. So I kind of like him. Again, there's just so many plays. Marcus Morris, Bobby Portis, LaMarcus Aldridge, if you want to go there. Check Diallo, as we talked about. He's going to get 20-plus minutes off the bench with Anthony Davis. There's just so many plays.
Check Diallo, currently the second highest projected owned player on the slate.
Do we only have it or no?
No, but before the update, we only have 3 power forwards, and this comes back to the Julius Randle thing with the ownership, over 10% projection. 2 of them reside in Milwaukee, in DJ Wilson and Ersan Ilyasova.
Yeah. So I didn't include them initially. Ersan, I would rather play over DJ Wilson if I had to pick. We've been trying to make DJ Wilson a thing pretty much all season long.
All year long.
Anytime there's one of these guys are ruled out, we're like, oh, DJ Wilson's a min-price pivot play, and then he goes out there and he does nothing. He played 30 minutes.
That's what 30 minutes last night. Is that encouraging at all to you? I know he didn't do anything, but 7 shots isn't the worst, but 5 rebounds, we want more, because especially considering Brook Lopez is who's starting next to you. You should be rebounding the basketball.
I just feel like we've given him so many opportunities this year to I mean, yes. I think he can be in lineups. I think people will be playing him tonight because of what we saw last night. And he's only $3,100 on DraftKings, and he's only like I think he's min price on FanDuel.
Price, yeah,
so people will go there. I just again like on FanDuel maybe I would give him more of a consideration. I just know that like when Ilyasova is in the lineup, he gives us production. Like he's just a safer player in my opinion. So I don't know. I feel like you can get him also at min price on FanDuel, and I would rather play him. So
I agree. I mean, Ersan just is more reliable. He's been more reliable. I think DJ Wilson's hurt us one too many times for us.
I think there was just like one game where DJ Wilson had a good day, and everybody's like, "Oh, like we should take notice of him," and then never again. So
right. I mean, they did draft him in the first round, so that's probably why we thought so, but it just hasn't panned out. Right. Let's finish it up at center, John. Joel Embiid is the top price center. Is he your favorite guy, or are you pivoting to guys like Vuk, Nurk? Like, where are you looking at the top of the center position?
So I definitely like Embiid tonight, and I wrote it up in the playbook. He's averaging 52 fantasy points against Boston this year, and that's with Boston like playing him pretty tough. He also feels like he got screwed by the referees.
Yep.
The last time they played, he pretty much sat at his press conference and called them out. And he may have had a little bit of a gripe. Like I think Al Horford probably did foul him at the end of that game. They just no-called it. And we love revenge narrative.
Love it.
Like
love it.
He goes out there and tries to dominate. Never mind the fact that Boston has just absolutely wiped the floor with Philly now for a year and a half. It seems like I can see Embiid going out there and breaking the slate tonight. I really, truly can. The problem is like Al Horford, really good defender. Aaron Baines, really good defender. And the Celtics know how to defend the Sixers. They understand that Simmons can't shoot. They understand that Jimmy Butler's not a great jump shooter. So they just like kind of clog the middle, make these guys, force them out of their game. Like they forced Joel Embiid to take more threes than like I think any team in the NBA because they clogged the middle and they just let him sit on the perimeter. And Embiid's stupid enough to play into that trap. Hopefully, again, he's a good play. I love Vucevic here against Pelicans. Who's going to defend him? If they start Okafor and play him for 12 minutes, I think Vucevic could have 30 in the first quarter. Like he's just an elite player that we've loved all season long.
Right.
He had 56 fantasy points in 26 minutes the first game that they played, just to show his upside. So in love with him. We've been attacking Dallas now for a while. Nurkic played 30 minutes again. No McCollum, so there's going to be some upside there for him. He's another guy, had 34 fantasy points in 26 minutes. Their first meeting, you got to think more minutes, more production. I do have Al Horford on there. I think he's a safer play. I know his knees have sort of been bothering him a little bit of late, but I mean, he went for 40 against Jokic, and there's few tougher matchups in the NBA than going up against Denver and Jokic. So I think there's a chance for Horford to also, on the flip side, sort of bring it against Embiid and have himself a good game. Then to sort of close it out, I have Robin Lopez against Washington. Again, we've been tagging Washington. They can't rebound. They go small at times. Rolo's been playing out of his mind. And then Joakim Noah, I like, maybe a little bit more than Valanciunas just because of the price point. Like Valanciunas had a better game than Lopez in terms of fantasy production last game, but he's still $5,100 on DraftKings for whatever reason. $5,700 on FanDuel, still a really good number. He fills up the stat sheet. He's going to play 25 minutes. So Noah for me and GBPs kind of rounds out the center spot for me.
Rolo or Brolo tonight?
Yeah, so I've had that question before. It seems like unlikely that we see 60 fantasy points out of Brook Lopez again, especially knowing like all of the front court guys are sort of healthy now in Cleveland. And they've actually ranked well against the center position this year for one reason or another. So unless Brook Lopez is really going to go nutty from three again or whatever, like I don't think he's going to go for 60, but sure. GPPs, he works. I mean, last night was hard to ignore.
I mean, only 5,400 on DraftKings, and like you said, he went for 60 last night. Let's get a question here from Sporkle. Damian Lillard and Daniel House, or Eric Bledsoe and Chris Middleton, DK GPP?
Dame Lillard and Eddie and Dwayne House, you said?
And Daniel House.
Daniel House, yeah.
Not Eddie House. He is very retired. Or Eric Bledsoe and Chris Middleton, DK GPP.
Oh, it's so good. I would probably have to go with the Bucks players, but I'm telling you, I think Lillard could go for 60 tonight. I mean, not just because he just did it, but like this matchup against Dallas is just like primo for guards, and he has all the usage behind him, all the fantasy point production behind him. But you could get 90 points out of the 2 Bucks players. So
right. Primo against every position right now is Dallas. They're not defending. They lost DeAndre Jordan and they have plummeted. Okay, John, let's take us out with a your favorite cash play over 9K and a cash play under 5K that you have in all your lineups tonight.
Over 5K and over 9K?
Over 9K and under 5K.
Where do you come up with these questions? We'll go Julius Randle. I'll stay. He's $9,000 on FanDuel, so that works. Over 5K?
Under
5K.
Under.
We'll go Dalen Wright. I think he's under 5K on DraftKings.
Yeah, 4,800 on DraftKings.
Works.
All right, with that, we're gonna get out of here. 24 minutes until roster lock. Get your questions in. John and I will.
Shumpert is starting, by the way, for Gordon.
I don't think that necessarily matters because Eric Gordon started last night and Daniel House still played 30 minutes.
I agree.
So, but does that, before we get out of here, does that put him on Shumpert in your player pool?
Nah.
We saw him be pretty productive in Sacramento earlier in the year.
Yeah, I mean, what are you talking about, like, pretty productive? I mean, like...
There were games.
Yeah, I'd rather go House.
Okay. I'm just, I think it's worth the conversation since we're touting House so heavily. I think since he's not starting, we should talk about Shumpert. But we could take this conversation to our subscriber chat for the next 23 minutes. John and I will be in there. Thank you to Matt Wolf for producing. Good luck tonight, everyone. We'll catch you in the winner's circle.